Elevate your brand with Elevate TV, a premier media station in the country. We specialize in video production, live coverage, advertising and social media marketing. We do quality production for YouTube videos, podcasts and live events. Transform your vision into reality with creativity and precision. Call us today and elevate your story on 0705 872 237.
Elevate TV, advancing kingdom lifestyle.
Good morning and welcome to the Morning Digest show. It's wonderful to have you join us from wherever it is you're watching us from. You are highly welcome. This is your leadership show where we discuss matters leadership. And I'm happy to, have a conversation today that is going to be a very interesting conversation around visionary leadership. That's our topic for the day. Before we get into it, I want to encourage you to invite your friends and family to join in the conversation. Tell them something good is happening on Elevate TV. So share the page on your socials so that, you can be able to have your friends and family be part and parcel of this amazing show. And as always, I want to encourage you to share your thoughts, your comments, your feedback during the show, and we'll be happy to look at your thoughts during this show. So you're highly welcome. I have a good friend of mine who is going to help us unpack this subject of visionary leadership, and that is none other than Kingston Ogango. He is the regional director of Alpha Africa, and I am happy and delighted to have him again because it's not his first time here on this particular show. Karibu, Kingston.
Thank you so much, Pastor. It's good to be here once again.
Thank you.
Asante.
Awesome to have you. How have you been?
I've been good. I've been traveling, lots of ministry, but it's been good just to see what God is doing. Yes.
That's great. It's a joy to have you here again.
Thank you.
Even as we discuss on this important subject around leadership.
Yeah.
We hear about and we talk a lot about vision and visionary leadership.
Yes.
For starters, let's begin from the beginning.
Yes.
What is visionary leadership?
So in simple terms, we can say visionary leadership is a style of leadership that creates the future and with a compelling purpose and clear goals of how the future looks like. So leaders who are visionary are not leaders of today. They are leaders who are looking at the long term and how that future looks like, but it's entrenched in a purpose, clear goals, and a pathway that creates a path for the followers to see where the future is going. Yes.
There is always this assumption that a leader or every leader is visionary. Is that the case?
Not quite.
Because a leader needs to see the future. So you expect every leader to be visionary.
Yeah, because you see some leaders look at terms. Maybe they have a term of office.
Election cycles.
Yeah, an election cycle. So they look and do things that are within the term of service. So they will do it for 5 years, for 10 years, depending on which way they are. And they never build anything for legacy. They don't look at, if they're building roads, they just repair roads, because in 5 years, they don't create something that has a future in it that generations will use, or other people will come and build on what they have. So visionary leaders look beyond their own time and generation.
So that actually means a visionary leader is transgenerational.
Yes.
They think beyond their generation.
They think beyond their generation. They'll think long term. So while they do some things that must be done in the short term, because of picking up the momentum, they motivate their followers and create a compelling vision also in them to see their future. So that if let's say you're building a town, you want to tell them in 10, 20 years, in 30 years, this is what we envision this city will be. And so they're looking at, suppose there's a population growth, how will that city look like? What kind of roads will we have? What kind of infrastructure do we want to build? So it's not built by doing now. So that means then they have strategy in place. So they're thinking strategy. They're thinking, how do we put certain pillars that will help us build for the future while we do some things today, but those contribute to building the bigger picture for where we are going.
You know, I've seen a lot of what happens in our context, where you see maybe a road is done, and then tomorrow you see they are digging the same road that has just been done, and they are digging around it to pass pipes, electricity, or whatever it is they are doing. And then it creates, so you are like, didn't they think about that ahead of time? So you are saying when you talk about visionary leadership, you are thinking about a lot of these things ahead of time. So that what you do now factors
in the future. Look at countries like in the Western world. When you look at the underground train built in the 1400s, an infrastructure that still works in our century today. So it was long term. They were thinking about how will this city look like.
I can imagine underground train.
And
there is no traffic there.
There's no traffic there.
So they're already thinking ahead.
And then we know we have a highway, we know the population is growing. But we build one lane road. And then allow people to build very close to the road. So when we need to expand the road, then becomes again a nightmare, because the people can't move out of the road and give space to the road. So that kind of thing, where you think long term and think beyond your generation. Think 3-4 generations down the line. How will it look like? Legacy thinking, where you're thinking, I need to do something that will be a platform where others will build on beyond my time.
Maybe let me just ask a very, what do I call it? Is it a naive question? How long is long?
Well, long, of course, the long can be, depending on where you sit, it could be 5 years, but at least you're talking about more than 10, 20 years. You know, now we used to talk about Vision 2030. It's only 5 years to go. Because it sounded like it was very far, but now we are already there. So we need to think. Now you're seeing a lot of strategies thinking Vision 2060. So saying in another 35 years to come, what will this city look like? What will be the growth would look like? But that also needs a lot of curating. And thinking. If you're thinking 50, 100 years ahead of time, it is thinking about what are the generations going to look like, what are the kind of things that are going to happen. Now look at technology, the way it has gone. In a few years, we've come from just mobile technology, we've come from computers, now we're in the AI, and it's growing. Now, that is the kind of phase we're going into. What will technology look like in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years to come from now? So you begin to plan with that kind of mindset. So, and especially for Christian leaders, it's asking God, what is a big picture? Because think about God. God thinks about how mankind
Yes.
can come to him for generations.
Uh-huh.
In fact, David says, one generation will tell the next generation of God's acts. It's thinking about further down the line. What will that look like?
Yes.
And I think if people began to think long term
Yeah.
while working in the immediate term and in the medium term, then it helps us build up to so that you as an individual, you may not be there for 50 years.
Yes.
But you can create the pathway for the long term, work in the immediate term, and then allow somebody else to build in the medium term, and others will build on going, so that it's a generational kind of structure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Long-term thinking. How long, or put it this way, how many years are you thinking ahead as a leader with the vision that you have? Can that vision carry what you're doing and the people you're leading generations after now? Something to think about. Share your thoughts and comments on Facebook and on YouTube, and we'll be looking at them even as we continue with this conversation. You can actually be part of the conversation. You make me remember something I keep whenever we talk about vision.
Yes.
And long term.
Yes.
It keeps coming, where God says, from even the family level,
Yes.
a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children.
Yes.
So you're talking about a third generation.
Yes. And when you think about it,
Yeah.
let me take my own example. I have 2 sons.
Yes.
I have no guarantee how many sons and daughters each will have.
Yes.
So if you assumed they will do better than I have done, and each even just did twice what I did,
Yes.
it means I have to give an inheritance to the 2 of them,
Yes.
and then give an inheritance to another 8 or 10 or
Yes.
20, depending on how that generation comes.
Yes.
Now, when you think about it, for a lot of us, we have hardly enough to survive ourselves, leave alone giving an inheritance to your children.
Yeah.
Then thinking about another third generation. Then through scripture, you see God talks about a next generation. He never talks about one generation. He talks about second and third generation. And so that just tells you a forward thinking about God. And so we must borrow a leaf from that and think, as we build institutions, as we lead our churches, as we lead organizations, are we thinking beyond our time? Or are we just therefore creating something that helps us shine for the moment, but not look at the future? In fact, there's a quote I liked from Professor Brooks, who says that do not spend time polishing the leaves, but spend your time fertilizing the roots.
We are more focused on
Yes.
polishing the leaves.
Yes, what is shining now, rather than fertilizing the roots that will build a longer tree for posterity.
There is this person
Yeah.
who, you've just alluded to that,
Yeah.
especially in our part of the world, where you are still on survival mode,
Yes.
trying to get out of the whole, trying to stand on your 2 feet.
Yes.
And this person, you are telling him to think 3 generations
Yeah.
from now.
Yeah.
Does your current circumstance
Yes.
limit your vision?
It can limit it if you decide to, but it can be a stepping stone to your future, where you say, this current situation is not where I'm going to rest.
Yeah.
That I must work hard, I must change the situation,
Yeah.
and use whatever I have, because in financial terms, they tell you still have to save however little
Yeah.
you earn.
Yes.
Now, that is forward thinking. But if you are thinking it's too little, let me just eat all of it, then you're not building the future.
Yes.
Yeah, so how do we create where we say,
Yeah.
I have 10 shillings, let me save 1. And live with the other 9 or 8, and then build the future.
Yes.
Then say, it's so little, let me just eat this one, the future will take care of itself. So forward thinking and visionary thinking is not dependent on your current circumstances. In fact, your current circumstances should be a catalyst to where you want to go.
Yeah, because there are some people who are holding back.
Yeah.
They're like, when I get there,
Yes.
then I will start planning. Then I will start.
And
So when do you start having...
Yeah, and the challenge is when you get there, it's like a mirage. It's always shifting.
Yes, yes.
So you have to kind of create pillars that you're building on.
Yeah.
First, create a good foundation, and then use that foundation and keep building on it, rather than imagining when I get there. I mean, I remember my own life, when we were younger. We said, I can't buy a small house. Let me wait when I have worked.
Yes.
I'll build and I'll buy a house in Runda, in Karen. Then 20 years down the road, you find you've never bought it. Because you didn't build on the time you had.
Yes.
Maybe the money you had was good enough to buy you a little flat.
Yes.
At that amount of money. Now that will have been, collateral to help you buy the next and build the next one. But now you missed that opportunity. So you have to go to the drawing board and begin to build again, which now takes a longer time. So when you have forward thinking and visionary thinking, then you're thinking, how will the church I am leading today, generation beta, look like? When they come, what legacy will they find of faith? What will they find as pillars we have created in this church, in prayer, in waiting on God, in trusting, in faith? Things that when they come to build on, they can look back and say, our forefathers built something we can go. And remember the children of Israel, even when they're crossing the Jordan.
Yeah.
God tells the man of God, Joshua, to pick 12 of them and to go pick stones from the sea and erect those stones.
Yes.
And he says that when generations come and say, what do this mean?
Yes.
They now can explain to them what God had done. Because it was thinking about how do you leave a discourse marker, something that people will look at and say, this is where God has brought us from. And now we can trust him even more. Greater things can we do as we think about the future. Yes.
Amazing. Now, when you talk about then visionary leadership, how do you help people appreciate and see or own the vision that you have?
So one is you have to have a very well articulated communication where you communicate the vision clearly to, because sometimes we think by writing it, and writing values and writing a vision on a wall or on a poster, people have understood it. And we normally call that, values on the wall. But what we need to do is move them from the wall to the heart. Because when they're in the heart, now people believe. It creates belief. It creates something that inspires them, that compels them to want to do something. And so vision also must be communicated consistently. Because again, what we do a lot of times as organizational leaders, we think it's a one time and all done. No, you have to repeatedly share the vision because there's usually some attrition, some leakage. So how do you keep on topping it up? It is consistently communicating it and saying it again and again so that the vision now moves from just the head to the heart. Now people begin to own it and begin to see it as part of their daily movement, daily work, and they see the bigger picture of where you're going.
I like the concept of moving it from the head to the heart, from the wall to the heart. I love that. It's and I think the way you've put it, that the more you communicate it, the more it sinks into the heart.
It's like faith. The more you read the word of God, the more you build faith. The less you read, the more fear comes into you. So it's that repeated process because there are things bombarding your mind, there are things coming into your space. So how do you keep that vision? But also it must be communicated with clarity. So it's not too confused. It's very clear and people understand it. Can they articulate it? Can they say it? Can they see it? Because without that, then it is, I've seen visions which are very complicated. Even for the person trying to explain to you, themselves cannot explain it clearly. Yeah.
You know, by the way, you've just said that, and I've looked at vision statements.
Yes.
And sometimes when I look at vision statements, I'm not sure whether that's a vision or a goal.
Yes.
I'm not sure whether that's
Exactly.
what do you call it? It's like a paragraph.
Yes.
Written
Yes.
of a vision statement.
Exactly.
What would a vision statement look like?
First, a vision statement must be succinct, short, and clear. And in proper vision creating, it should not be an action word. So when you hear people say to do something, that's a mission. Because it's an active,
Yes.
because vision creates picture.
So vision is what you see.
Yet what you see, it's not what you do.
What you
Mission is what you do to fulfill the vision. Yeah. So people confuse that, and you find sometimes a vision has a to-do word, an act. But vision is creating a future, a picture, a compelling picture that people can see.
Yeah.
When we have done X, Y, Z, this is what we should anticipate to see in the coming days. Yes.
So when you're painting a vision, it should be helping people to see.
Yes.
And the statement you said should be very...
It should be sharp and clear, succinct. It should not be confusing. No. Because somebody should see it. If you want to say, we want to create a city that will be technologically advanced, how do you make sure people see it?
A land flowing with milk and honey.
Exactly, yes, like that. That's a very clear vision. You don't have to confuse it. Yeah, because there's milk, there's honey, so you can see things even in your mind. There's plenty.
You can imagine a productive land.
Exactly. It's
plenty.
a prosperous place. Everybody is supplied. People can begin to see that now that can compel you to now create. How do we get to that big picture? Yeah.
So, and that's the statement now that you need to keep repeating, or that picture. So
that picture you keep sharing with people, because mission sometimes can be tweaked depending on what happens around you, because over time some things need tweaking, so you need to revisit it. But vision normally is long term. So like the land flowing with milk and honey, it remains long term. But there may be methodologies that change along the way, so that can be tweaked. And so if you keep reminding people this is the big picture, so they're not caught up in the desert and the pain of a desert. They keep seeing where they are going, so that then they're not settling where they are.
They're not stuck.
They realize, no, we have not arrived to where we want to go. We need to keep working at it. We need to keep pushing so that we can achieve the goal that we wanted to go and see and fulfill where God is leading us to actually see this picture in reality when it is finally done. Yeah.
Wow. What are some of the should I say evidences or marks of a visionary leader? When you look at a leader, what tells you this is a visionary leader?
I could summarize it in 3 perspectives. A visionary leader must have a holistic approach of 3 perspectives: hindsight, insight, and foresight. And basically, hindsight is understanding the past, looking at the past successes, but also looking at the past failures. Because success can be as dangerous as failure. Because you can be stuck in your past success and begin to enjoy it so much that you forget to come to the present.
It becomes like your couch.
Exactly.
Where you relax. I've arrived. And now it becomes dangerous. And so hindsight must offer that space where you celebrate the wins. You learn lessons of what has happened. And then look at also failure. What could it be that you didn't do very well, but not get stuck there? In fact, when I'm looking at these 3 perspectives, one of the things that helps me just visualize it is a car. A car has 3 important
parts or components.
Yes.
We have the rear view mirror. Now, you don't spend the time looking at your rear view mirror.
No.
You glance at it, how far you have come,
Yeah.
and what distance you have covered, and what is behind you, and you move on.
Yeah.
Then you have side mirrors. That is what gives you insight to where you are now. What could be approaching you? What car could be, what dangers are around you? Yeah, what is some vehicle that is coming too close to you? So creating the now, and now inspiring your today, so that then you are not also caught in the past.
Yeah.
Because being caught in the past is a dangerous thing. You become yesterday's man. But you need to be present today, because today is the day the Lord has made. Today is a day of salvation. So God is also a day of today.
Yes.
So that you are doing things today to accomplish today, and not just sitting and enjoying what passed, but also it creates for you the future. And that's why the car has a big windscreen. Because the windscreen shows you the bigger picture of where you're going. It's not showing a narrow road like a rear view mirror, because you're just seeing so a little part.
Yeah.
It now shows you the expanse of where you still have to go.
Yes.
The big landscape, the distance you have yet to cover. And so foresight is now helping you now get inspired by the future. What will the future look like?
Yeah.
And now beginning to paint that future and walking through. So these three components then create that holistic approach that you're beginning to work on as a leader, looking behind, celebrating the successes, the small wins, and whatever God has done, or whatever is happening in your organization, the profits, whatever it is that are successes.
Yes.
And then learning lessons from either things that have not worked, things are not going right, and now using them not to be stuck in the past, but dusting yourself, rising up and saying we need to go to the next place. And wonder, when the children of Israel had settled on the mountain, God tells Moses, break camp, advance.
You've been here for too long.
Too long.
Yeah.
Because they're enjoying now where they are. They have had pain and struggle.
Yes.
So let's just settle here, because we don't know what the future holds.
And it's very easy to get settled after you've come out of pain.
Yes.
And then things are eased up a bit.
Yes.
And you can think, now we can settle here.
In fact, it's a very interesting scripture Jesus gives in Luke 5. When he's talking about new wine and new wineskins, and old wine and old wineskins.
Yeah.
And as you come to the end of that story of his illustration of new wine and old wineskins, he says that, those who have tasted the old wine say it is just fine.
They never desire the new.
They don't want the new. They have settled because they don't want to explore. Look at how life is. You have a pair of shoes.
Yes.
You've used it for so long, it's become comfortable.
Yes.
But it may be shapeless. But because it's comfortable, you go to, or a t-shirt, it is worn off.
Yeah.
But it is comfortable. So you live in the past rather than thinking, there could be another nicer shoes that I could use today.
Yes.
I'm stuck in the past. So the past is good for hindsight, to inspire you to understand where you're coming, but it can also be a trap to hold you back than going to where you need to go. Yeah.
I like the fact that you're bringing out that visionary leadership is not just living in the future.
Yes.
It's looking at the holistic aspect.
Yes.
The hindsight, the insight, and the foresight.
Yes.
Wow. Amazing conversation around visionary leadership. And we want to take a short break and get back to continue with this conversation. But like I said earlier, you are free to be able to share with us your thoughts, your comments as we engage on this conversation around visionary leadership, what it looks like, and how do we lead with vision as leaders or great leaders that we ought to be. And so, see you in a moment. 2 minutes break. Stay tuned.
anytime, anywhere. Access inspiration that never switches off. Stuck in traffic? Elevate your mood and own the moment. Just looking busy? Make every second count. Tap into Kingdom content instead. One tap, instant power, real transformation. Download the Elevate TV app now. Exclusively on Google Play.
Support Elevate TV. Partner with us in advancing the kingdom. Did you know that Elevate TV is sustained through the generous contributions of our valued viewers and ministry partners like you? Your financial support enables us to continue broadcasting life-transforming content that promotes a kingdom lifestyle across Africa and beyond. We invite you to send your love gifts today and become part of this impactful mission. You can do so through M-Pesa till number 532-9905. And for the international audience, use Wave Remit 0706 655 554. For more information, call or text 0719 666 655. Elevate TV is an award-winning Christian broadcaster reaching millions across the continent and beyond with uplifting Christ-centered programming. Join us in shaping a generation for the kingdom.
On this Morning Digest show where we discuss leadership matters, and today we have an interesting, wonderful topic on visionary leadership, and to help us unpack is Kingston Ogango, the regional director of Alpha Africa, and we have had a very interesting conversation the first part of the show, just looking at what visionary leadership is, what it looks like, and the perspectives of visionary leadership. And so, karibu tena, Kingston.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you've just helped us see that visionary leadership should be holistic.
Yes.
Where we are looking at the past,
yes,
hindsight,
yeah,
the present, insight, and the future,
yes,
foresight.
yes.
And why is that important? Maybe you can pick it up from there.
Yeah.
Why is it critical to have the three components or perspectives?
Yes, so in leadership we talk about balance, so that you're not having a skew over one.
Yes.
Because you can either be too skewed to the past, where you become traditional, you get caught up in the traditions,
yes,
the methodologies, in the successes, or you fear so much in trying to venture out because of the fears of the past.
Yes.
But when you do balance, it says that you're picking something from there, then looking at today, what is going on in your organization? What are the motivations of the individuals and the followers in your team or organization? What are the modern things that are happening within your space, so that then you're also beginning to think, how do we build this organization? Having learned, because the past is not unimportant, because sometimes we think the past is useless. No, the past is what has built you to where you are, but must now be used to as a block, a stepping block to the next one. Now I'm in the present. What's happening in my current space? What are the changes that are happening in the market space, in the people we are leading, in the followers? What are they thinking? What are their aspirations? What do they want to do? And then that now helps you also look at the trends. What are the trends that are happening? What does the future look like? Because when you're thinking about foresight, it's anticipating a future that hasn't arrived.
Yeah.
But you can look at certain trends and you say, what we are seeing with this coming like technology, we expect technology to continue to grow this way. What we are seeing with the urbanization, we continue to see people moving from the villages to the cities. And so as a leader, then you're thinking about when that time comes, how should we look at our ministry? Are we able to cope with what we have, or are we looking to the future? Is as an organization, what should we be thinking about? Career-wise, what should we be looking at? What will be some of the things that are happening in health, for example? What do we need to create spaces to allow us to get, when we arrive to the future, we are not caught up where we were left in the past, or we are trying to figure out how to get into the future because we are still in the present and not transitioning. So it has to create that balance where we know when now to transition from one phase to another, and then now continue to build that as a motivation to where we are going.
So we learn from our past, we are alive to the present, and we are thinking about the future. Now, so here is this visionary leader who has all these perspectives. And, you know, people are looking up to you. You are leading either a congregation, you are leading an organization. And you talked about moving this vision from the wall to the heart, from the head to the heart. And sometimes a vision, like we've said, is long-term, looks too far. How then, what built-in steps would a leader take to guide people through being alive to the present, you know, as you lead them towards vision? What is the mechanism from coming from point A
to C? One is you must be open-minded, so that as a leader you're not closed-minded. And that means then you open up to creativity and innovation. And more often than not, you realize that you're not going to be the innovator or the creator, but you can create space for those who are. So you have built a legacy. You have brought it to this. You are in the present. The younger people, younger generation, how do you give them space to begin to innovate to the future? How do you allow them space to begin to create the future that should be? So that then you are not also because you move away from where you are the player in the center and begin to move outside. So visionary leadership means that you're moving from the center and beginning to move to the next circle and moving to the outside. So that by the time you're in the future, you're actually on the outside looking in. But when you start, you're on the inside looking out. So that when you're on the outside now, yours is to offer advice, is to mentor, is to sharpen, is to encourage. You're not the practitioner. The others now who are playing the game, they'll play it differently.
So that looks like, or sounds like, what I've had, like some of the leadership gurus, like John Maxwell, would say, when you begin leadership, have a successor in mind.
Exactly.
So that's part of the visionary.
That's the part of the visionary leadership. Because
and that's actually a question I can see Lewis has asked there. It is said visionary leadership is about planning your exit immediately when you begin. And the question is, how practical can this be considering our context as an African community?
I think it's intentionality that we lack. Because we are in a practical space where young people are saying we have no jobs, we can't do things, they have gone to school. So it doesn't mean there are no people we can pass the baton to. It is that we don't have the intention. And so the older people are comfortable where they are and they don't want to pass on. Either for the fear of the future, or they feel they're unprepared, or they don't know how to do it. So it could be a factor of many things. But the reality is, there's always a younger person on the wings who you can begin to. But what I could also say with that mentoring process is the realization that it may not all be put together in one day. It's a process. Because the younger person may be very passionate, but lacks the skill, lacks the experience to take them to where they need to go. So what do you do to help them to get there? It is by consistently now shaping them, mentoring them, offering them opportunities. And some of opportunities mean sometimes they'll make mistakes. Learning from those mistakes and beginning to see as they get strong. One quick illustration is like a child who is born. They sit, then they begin to crawl, then they start walking. It's messy. They will fall many times. But what do you do as a father or a mother? You encourage them to stand up again, and you hold their hands and you release it again. They stand, they fall until they start getting steady. And even in the steadiness, they're still wobbling. Until now they can find their firm foot and begin to walk, and then they start to run. Yeah, but you see, we want them to be born and run. No, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't work like that.
Doesn't work like that.
So I like what you've said. It takes time.
It takes time.
And intentionality.
Intentionality. Yes.
So we must be willing to invest time.
Yes.
And be very intentional.
Yes, and just to follow what Lewis is saying is, then it means on the first day you take leadership, you are already realizing that your leadership is now trickling down. Day one, it's like buying a brand new car. Immediately you drive out of the showroom, it becomes a second-hand car.
Its price drops.
The price has dropped, the value has dropped. Immediately you drive out because it's no longer a brand new car. So it's the same way that as leadership, the first day you take leadership, you must realize that your clock is ticking down. And so the day you begin to say, how can I put in the next level of leadership? Whether it is now you're writing something or you're bringing practical young people and testing and trying. And so do something to begin the process.
So do something, become intentional and realize it will take time. It will take time. So begin early in investing in the next generational leaders. The other question I would ask around, mentorship. From a visionary leader. How do then, you're starting early, but then how do you identify this individual or these individuals that you need to pass the baton to? Okay.
One of the things is, in mentorship, I always say that everyone needs a mentor. Even the mentor needs a mentor. So if you have come through a mentoring process, it makes it much easier because you have been through a process. You have seen how you have been helped to reach where you are. So you have certain milestones you can put down and say, now this I liked, this I didn't like. If my mentor had done this, this would have been better this way. So it has already created for you a template of how you can actually identify a mentor. But also it's important, as the word says in Habakkuk, write it down. Put down a process. What kind of person are you looking for? What qualities must they have? What are you seeing as potential that you want to build on? And so once you do that, then you begin to scan the environment you have for the people who have those qualities. They may have potential, they may not have it in full. But do they have enough for you to begin to say, if I work on this for this X amount of time, they'll have blossomed to where they need to be. So then that helps you in a beginning to identify the leaders. But another time also what you can do is you may not be clear whether it is one person. You can take a number of them through a process of testing and trialing and seeing who finally brings out the best of what you're looking for. So you mentor a number of younger people and through a period of time, and it's like creating a hypothesis. Suppose I do this, I expect to get this result. And so when you've taken them through that process, do they actually confirm that hypothesis you set out to do? I'm sure one of them will. If you're also diligent to do the processing. And for those who are Christians, is to go back to God. Ask God, give me wisdom of how to choose the right people.
Yes.
You know, when people want to, Moses goes to God and says, whom shall I pass this mantle to?
Yes.
And God tells him, Joshua, the son of Nun. Because though they had walked with him, you can see Moses is in that space where he realizes, I need still to get the wisdom of God. I could just quickly say it's Moses. But remember, he had Aaron and he had Miriam.
And there was Caleb also.
And there's also Caleb on the side. So is it Caleb? Is it Aaron who was current heir apparent?
Yes.
Or is it somebody else? So God tells him, no, it's not Aaron, it's not Miriam, it's not Caleb. It is Aaron. It is Joshua. Yet you can see Caleb was a man who had great vision. He still was very clear what he wanted. Yet God has chosen Joshua, not the other three.
And I think I like that because sometimes as you might think this is the one. But when you go to God, he leads you in a different direction.
David, the story of David.
Yes. And even with Joseph's children. Was it Joseph's children who, or Esau and Jacob, where the father, not just the father, it was traditional, they assumed the firstborn.
But will take over.
But God had other ideas. So it's good to seek God.
It's very important to seek God because what may be apparent, and as we can see in this story of Moses, these were capable men. Caleb was a capable man.
They were good men, they were capable men.
Yes, and a man of great vision. Didn't die. He comes back to Joshua later on and says, give me my mountain, promised 40 years ago. So he's not a guy who was going to cow down. He was a good guy. He's a guy who, but you see, God had chosen somebody different. And I think that is really a big lesson for us as leaders, because sometimes we select people because they look good and they look like they're the part. But God is saying, no, it's somebody else who you may not be thinking about.
Yes. All right, so talk to us about the place of strategy. We talk about strategic planning a lot. So how does a visionary leader help develop, or what do they need to do? Like, again, on the same thing of talking about moving people from point A to point B. Where is the place of strategy?
So strategy is what anchors all the other ideas on how we get to implement. Because strategy then just dovetails to your bigger vision, and you can now create goals and objectives and activities that will help you. And so strategy sometimes can be short-term or medium-term, but it must be anchored on the long-term vision. Because the long-term vision goes, because we say strategy is a living process, or sometimes a living document. Why? Because things change in the interim period. But the big vision never changes. It is, we need to get to the land flowing with milk and honey. So whether it is going to be Joshua or it is Moses, Joshua is coming in with strategy.
We still have to get there.
He changes some of the things Moses has done for the short term to get to the promised land. And so we keep the big vision, we are going to the promised land. And you see how the Bible says that all the young people who started in Israel all died in the desert. So they didn't fulfill the vision. Another generation arose that actually took over the promised land. So vision remains, strategy can be shifted over time, but the vision remains. The big picture has to remain compelling for the long term.
And could I think we have talked about this before.
Yeah.
But then, how then do you avoid being distracted
Yes.
from the vision?
Yes.
How? Because like we talked about the journey.
Yeah.
Moses gets to Mount Sinai.
Yes.
And they camp there.
Yeah.
For too long.
Yeah.
You know, the children of Israel go to Babylon.
Yes.
And they no longer want to go back.
Yes.
How do you avoid distractions from the vision?
And it's a very important question you ask.
Or even drift from the
Yeah,
vision.
you drift is a lot. Just think about when the children of Israel, the way you've said, they've already gone now into exile.
Yeah.
Jeremiah 29. And they're listening to very many prophets who are telling them many things. And voices, there's so much noise around it.
Yes.
Then God sends Jeremiah and tell them, no, tell these guys, you're losing it.
Yeah.
Settle down. Build homes.
Yes.
Let your sons and daughters get married. Plant vineyards.
Yes.
Because you're going to be here for 70 years. So trying to anchor them back
Yes.
to say, there's a big picture, but things, if you keep going like this, we're getting distracted.
Yeah.
We are drifting. So let's first focus for now. Have the things that you need to do now.
Yes.
And then he begins to tell them in verse 11, the verse we like to say,
Yeah.
I have a plan, a future that is secure.
Yes.
Yes, a compelling future. Because he has taken care of the future.
Yes.
Yes.
It's basically like saying I have a vision.
Yes, I have a vision.
I'm taking you to a good place
Yes,
and all that stuff.
exactly. Yeah. So it's, God never forgets the vision he has.
Yes,
The
yes.
vision remains. Interim period, because we are human beings, we'll be battered by issues, challenges will come, discouragements will come, we will detour, we'll feel like we don't want to go anymore, we want to camp and just enjoy what we have, or we want to even go back. Yeah, you see, they reach a place, they say, just take us back. Where are we suffering?
They are remembering, they have a vision of the past.
Yes.
They are remembering the cucumbers, the
Exactly.
onions, and the like.
So wanting to go back. But God then reminds them, no, you cannot go back. We have a goal, we have a big vision. Let's rally through. And then sometimes you have to cut off. And that's why some of the people began to complain. God destroyed them in the desert. And at some point even opened the earth just to swallow them because they had become too much. They're not keeping the focus. They become a distraction to the entire nation. So sometimes you have to cut off all these things that become, Paul says, the things that easily beset you, the weights that easily beset you, putting aside that you may run the race to where you want to go. Yeah.
It's it needs to be done.
Yeah.
But sometimes it feels easier said than done.
Yeah.
And you've talked about people who sometimes you may need. How do you deal with division?
Yes. Yeah, and that is normal in any process, that there will be people who have divergent views. There are people who will want to steal the vision and run different race. So it is for you as the leader to continuously point people. It's like the true north.
Yes.
Vision is the true north.
Yeah.
So keeping aside all these discouragements, the divisions, the subvisions, all these people, and saying, this is where we are going. And you come with me.
Yes.
So you rally, you motivate, you mobilize. Yeah, because sometimes we assume people will just come.
Yeah.
But they need to be mobilized. And then they need to be motivated. And then now spurred to go. That even those who began with you, some may fall aside.
Yes.
Don't be caught up in that. Rise up and say, fine, we fought with them that battle.
Yeah.
Thank you, God. We need to get to the next one. Who are you raising in my season to go and fight the next battle? So that we are not caught in the past of where we are, but we are looking to where we want the audacious vision we have to go to where we want to reach. Yeah.
I mean, you don't. I like what you're saying. You don't get caught up with even those who have gotten discouraged, quit or things like that.
Yeah.
The vision still has to keep. You still
it's
have
like
to keep
battle.
going.
You know, soldiers. One of them will fall. They will feel bad. They'll pick them, and they go on to the because they still have to fight. The war is still there. They may have lost this battle, but they must win the war.
Yes.
So they don't get caught in the battle. They know this is only one thing we've done. We still have a big thing to achieve. And so some fall by the wayside, but that doesn't discourage them. They keep moving.
All right. So when the vision to the leader is not clear, how does that impact?
Then everything will be muddled out, because then the leader, first of all, are unsure. Then they'll keep changing. Then now, you see, if you keep changing, then there's really no anchor to what you're doing.
Yes.
So the leader must be very clear. What do they want to see? And then now sell that. But when the leader is not clear, the people will also disappear. You know, even scripture says, you know,
where there's
no vision, my people perish. Because vision is what anchors everything. So the leader must have a proper, compelling vision. And not be confused. And if you have not yet got it, take time, find it before you start moving to the next level. Because it's like starting a journey and you don't have enough fuel and you don't have a spare tire. And you want to run a very long mile. Not too long, your fuel will run out, your punches will throw you out of the journey. So you must make sure everything is in place before you begin the journey.
As we begin to bring this to a close.
Yes.
In our context, to be practical, when I say context, I'm not referring to our country, so that we also don't become, because people in this country have become very edgy. They begin to read your political inclinations or affiliations, even when you don't have them. But in our context in Africa, what would you describe generally as, because there's a lot that has been said about Africa, the potential Africa has, the resources Africa has. What would you describe to be is visionary leadership the big thing that we lack, or what is?
It's one of what we lack a lot, visionary leadership.
Yes.
Because that really plays into also transformational leadership.
Yes.
Because every transformational leader is a visionary leader. And so if we are going to see Africa fulfill what you're saying, the potential Africa has, utilize all the resources they have, take Africa to where it can play be at the table of where other serious nations and continents are, visionary leadership is extremely important. And when we lack visionary leadership, then we'll keep being like the children of Israel, cycling the mountain, just going around the mountain rather than going forward. Because then we do small things that just take us from one point to the other, but we realize we are back to the same point, rather than now breaking camp and beginning to go to the big journey and doing exploits as we go ahead.
Yeah, because I'm saying that because I also know you're well traveled in Africa. You oversee Africa. And so you've seen a lot as you go.
Yes.
Is our Kenyan situation unique?
It's not unique. It's actually, it's sad to say, it is what you see in a lot of African countries, with great resources, great minds, but simple basic things don't work. Hospitals don't work, roads are in a state, communication is almost non-existent, health, there is no health care, yet you find that these people are well learned. The country has immense resources that are untapped. The young people are bustling with energy and creativity,
Yeah.
but now there's nobody to help harness that to actually take it to the next level.
Wow. So that's a challenge and a call to to us, to the generations that are here now, the younger generation, even as we look at the future of this continent. What would be your parting shot as we bring this to a close?
I think my parting shot will be that we must endeavor to raise, elect, appoint visionary leaders. If Africa, if Kenya, if the Church of Jesus Christ is going to fulfill the mandate, or the nations are going to fulfill the mandate they have, because then we will not be caught up in the things we have, because people, when they get corrupt, they do things, are people who want to live in the now. Let me have a mass for now. They're not people who are thinking about what will happen in the future. You can amass so much money like we saw in India, and then one president comes and just deletes a currency. So all the money you have becomes useless in one night. But when you're visionary, then you're building legacy, you're building processes, you're building structure, you're building people. And you're saying, this is the army that is going to deliver the future, not me. I'm only a champion, I'm only a catalyst, I'm only a captain to help them to get where they need to go.
Wow. What a good way to bring this show to a close, and a call and a challenge to every leader to think beyond themselves, to think beyond their time, and to think generations ahead of them, in order to build people, build structures and systems that can take people to the desired destination that they have. And that's a challenge for us in Africa in particular. And so my prayer for you as a leader, as we bring this to a close, may you begin to interrogate your leadership and become more intentional and begin to invest time in raising the next generation. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much, Kingston, for being with us.
It's been a pleasure.
Here today.
Very grateful. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. God bless you. See you next week, same time, same place.